You're lying in bed and your phone is on your chest and you're doing math. Not complicated math, the kind that keeps you up. You're looking at that Social Security statement you pulled up last week, the one that says you'll get $2,000 a month at 67, and you're trying to figure out what your life looks like built on that number. Rent or mortgage, Medicare supplement, groceries, gas, the electric bill, maybe a prescription or two. And it's tight, but it works. You've told yourself it works. Here's what the math actually says. There is a date, already published, already calculated, sitting in a government report anyone can download for free, when that $2,000 becomes $1,540. Not because of a recession, not because of anything you did, because a trust fund hits zero, and the law, the actual statute, requires the cut. The 2024 Trustees Report puts the date at 2033 for the Retirement Trust Fund. That is 9 years from now. And nothing about your planning, your discipline, or your hope changes that date by a single day. Let's slow down, because the first thing to get right is the thing almost everyone gets wrong. Social Security is not going bankrupt. It is not disappearing. If you've heard someone say you won't get anything, that person either didn't read the trustees' report or is trying to scare you into buying something. The system collects payroll taxes every single pay period from every working American. That does not stop. What stops is the backup fund, the trust fund, that covers the gap between what comes in and what goes out. Once that backup is gone, the system can only pay what it collects in real time, and what it collects covers roughly 77 cents of every dollar it owes. That's the 23%. Not a guess, not a political prediction. Published math from the Social Security Administration's own chief actuary, Stephen Goss, who told Congress directly that payable benefits after trust fund depletion would still be about 77% of scheduled benefits. 77%. Not zero, but not what you planned on either. So let's talk about how this actually works, because the mechanism matters more than the headline. Every paycheck you've ever earned had 6.2% taken out for Social Security. Your employer matched it. That's 12.4% of your wages, up to a cap, $168,600 in 2024. That money doesn't go into a little account with your name on it. It goes out immediately to pay people who are retired right now. Your parents, your neighbor, the woman at the pharmacy counter who worked 38 years at the school district. Their checks come from your paycheck. When you retire, your checks come from someone else's paycheck. This is not a flaw. This is the design. Social Security is social insurance, not a savings account. It has worked this way since 1935. The problem is arithmetic, not policy. In 1960, there were about 5 workers paying in for every 1 person collecting. Today, that ratio is 2.8 to 1. By 2040, it's projected to be 2.3 to 1. People are living longer, birth rates dropped, the baby boom generation, the largest generation in American history, is retiring. More people collecting, fewer people paying in, and the trust fund that was built up during the surplus years is being drawn down to cover the difference. The trust fund peaked at roughly $2.9 trillion around 2020. It has been declining since. The trajectory is a line going down, and the place where it crosses zero is 2033 under the intermediate projection, or 2035 if you combine the retirement and disability funds. The Congressional Budget Office, running its own independent numbers, actually puts the combined date at 2033, 2 years earlier than the trustees, and estimates a 25% cut rather than 23. 2 separate, nonpartisan institutions, slightly different assumptions, same conclusion. Now, here is where this becomes personal, and I need you to find your birth year. If you're 62 right now, born around 1962, Your full retirement age is 67. That's 2029. Under the current projection, you get about 4 years of full benefits before the trust fund runs out. 4 years. If you claimed early at 62, which permanently reduces your monthly check by up to 30%, you'd collect a smaller amount for 9 years before the cut hits. And then the 23% applies on top of the reduction you already locked in. You took less, and then less was taken from you. If you're 55, born around 1969, your full retirement age is 2036. The retirement trust fund is projected to be gone 3 years before you even reach full retirement age. You may never collect a single month at the full scheduled rate. Let that land for a second. If you're 50, born 1974, you reach full retirement age in 2041. That is 8 years after depletion. Your entire expected benefit collection period falls under reduced payment rules unless the law changes. If you're 45, the depletion date is 13 years before your full retirement age. For you, the question isn't whether benefits get cut. The question is by how much and whether anything changes between now and then. You're probably thinking, Congress will fix this. They have to. 67 million people vote. No one is going to let checks get slashed overnight. Maybe. Let me tell you what the history actually shows. The last time Social Security faced this exact crisis was 1983. The trust fund was months from depletion. Months, not years. The Greenspan Commission was formed in December 1981 when the projected depletion date was mid-1983. They worked for about 14 months, produced recommendations, and legislation passed in April 1983, roughly 6 months before the money ran out. That fix included raising the full retirement age from 65 to 67. It included taxing Social Security benefits for the first time. It included payroll tax adjustments. And here is the part that matters for anyone counting on being grandfathered. The changes affected people already in the system. The retirement age increase applied to workers who were decades from retirement. The benefit taxation applied immediately. The idea that Congress won't touch current or near retirees has exactly one historical data point, and that data point contradicts the assumption. They fixed it under crisis pressure. The fix included costs distributed to people who thought they were safe, and that was 1983. The political environment was different. The distance between the two parties' preferred solutions was different. Since then, since 1983, every single trustee's report for over 40 years has projected this depletion. Every single one. And in those 4 decades, Congress has passed 0 comprehensive Social Security reform legislation. Not one bill signed into law. The 2024 Trustees Report says it plainly. Lawmakers have a broad continuum of policy options that would close or reduce the financing shortfall, and taking action sooner rather than later would allow a broader range of solutions. They've been saying this for 20 years. The actuarial deficit was 1.92% of payroll in 2010. By 2024, it's 3.50%. Every year of inaction makes the fix more expensive. That's not opinion. That is published actuarial math, compounding in the wrong direction. You can't budget your way out of a structural problem. So let's talk about what this actually costs you in dollars, in your life. A household receiving $2,000 a month in Social Security benefits gets $24,000 a year. A 23% cut takes away $5,520 annually. Over a 20-year retirement, that's $110,000. Gone. Not reduced, not delayed. Removed from your income. Now, look at what the median American approaching retirement actually has saved. The Federal Reserve's 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances, the most comprehensive look at household wealth in the country, found that the median retirement account balance for families aged 55 to 64 was $185,000. For families aged 45 to 54, it was $115,000. $110,000 is what you need to replace the Social Security cut over 20 years. The median 55-year-old has $185,000 total. The cut alone would consume nearly 60% of everything they've saved. You tell yourself you'll figure it out. You tell yourself the raise is coming, or the house will be paid off by then, or you'll work a couple more years. You tell yourself 67 million people can't all get cut at once because someone would do something. You tell yourself this every year, and every year the trust fund balance drops, and every year Congress does nothing, and every year the cost of the fix goes up. Now, I need to address something that a lot of people are thinking, because I've heard it 100 times. The logic goes like this: claim early. Take your Social Security at 62. Get the money while it's still full. Beat the cuts. Here's why that math doesn't work the way you think it does. If you delay Social Security from 62 to 70, your monthly benefit increases by approximately 76%. That is not a small number. That is the single most powerful guaranteed return available to most Americans. A person whose benefit at 62 would be roughly $2,100 a month would receive approximately $3,700 at 70. Now apply the 23% cut to both. $2,100 cut by 23% is $1,617 a month. $3,700 cut by 23% is $2,849. The difference between those two numbers, $1,232 a month, survives the cut completely intact because a percentage reduction applied to a larger base still leaves a larger amount. The delay premium does not disappear when benefits are cut. The math is clean on this. There are scenarios where early claiming might make individual sense. Serious health issues, no other income sources, specific tax situations. But the blanket advice to claim early because of the trust fund? That's panic math, not actual math. Here is where I want to be careful, because I'm not your financial advisor, and this is not advice. What I can tell you is what the planning literature discusses, what the IRS publications actually say about your options, and what the math looks like when you stress test your own numbers. The first thing is the simplest, and it's free. Go to ssa.gov, create your My Social Security account, and pull up your estimated benefit. That number assumes current law continues. It does not reflect the potential cut. Take that number and multiply it by 0.77. That's your stress-tested benefit. Now ask yourself, does my retirement plan still work at that number? If the answer isn't an immediate yes, you know something important that you didn't know 5 minutes ago. The second thing the planning literature discusses is tax diversification. If your benefits get cut and you need to pull more from savings to compensate, having money in different types of accounts, pre-tax like a traditional 401k or IRA, post-tax like a Roth, and regular taxable accounts, gives you flexibility to manage what you owe in taxes year by year. Converting some traditional retirement money to Roth during lower income years before you start claiming Social Security is a strategy that financial planners discuss extensively. It's governed by IRS publication 590A and 590B, and the rules are specific to your situation. This is one of those things where the concept is straightforward, but the execution requires someone who knows your numbers. The third thing is the catch-up window. If you're over 50, the IRS lets you contribute more to retirement accounts than younger workers. For 2024, the 401k limit is $23,000, with a $7,500 catch-up for workers 50 and older. Starting in 2025, Workers aged 60 to 63 get an enhanced catch-up of $11,250 under the Secure 2.0 Act. An IRA allows $7,000 plus $1,000 catch-up at 50. These aren't magic numbers. But if you have 8 to 10 years before you need the money, the compounding on maximized catch-up contributions is the closest thing to a lever you personally control. Let me tell you what nobody in this equation is paid to tell you. The Social Security Administration is paid to administer the program and publish the math. They do that well. They are not paid to knock on your door and say your plan has a hole in it. Your employer's HR department is paid to offer you the 401k options they negotiated. They are not paid to model your Social Security exposure. Your financial advisor, if you have one, may or may not be modeling the depletion scenario into your plan. Ask them. Specifically ask, have you stress-tested my retirement income, assuming a 20 to 25% Social Security reduction starting in 2033? If they haven't, they are planning for a world that the government's own actuaries say will not exist. And Congress. Congress is paid to legislate, and for 40 years on this specific issue, they have chosen not to. Not because the math is unclear. The math has been published annually in excruciating detail. Not because solutions don't exist. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget has modeled dozens of combinations that work. Not because no one told them. The trustees have included the same warning in their report for decades. The cost of delay compounds. In 2010, a 1.92% payroll tax increase would have fixed the system for 75 years. By 2024, the number is 3.50%. Whatever the number is, when they finally act, it will be larger than it needed to be, and it will be paid by someone. Current retirees, near retirees, current workers, future workers, or all of the above. The only question is the distribution of that cost. And that distribution depends on who is in office and what they prioritize on the day they finally move. I want to clear up one more thing that gets repeated constantly because it poisons the conversation. You've heard people say Congress raided the Social Security Trust Fund, that the money was stolen, that if politicians hadn't taken it, everything would be fine. Here is what actually happened. When Social Security collected more in payroll taxes than it paid in benefits, which happened for decades, the surplus was invested in special issue U.S. Treasury securities. That is the legally required investment mechanism. It's written into the statute. The trust fund lent money to the general government and received interest-bearing bonds in return, backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. Those bonds are real. They pay interest. They are being redeemed right now to pay your benefits. The issue is not that the money was stolen. The issue is that the demographic math shifted. More retirees, fewer workers. And the surplus turned into a deficit. The bonds are running out because they're being cashed to pay benefits that current revenue can't cover. That's the mechanism, not theft. Math. If you tell yourself someone stole it, and that's why it's broken, you're giving yourself permission not to plan. The system's problem is structural and demographic. Nobody needs to be the villain for the math to be real. So here's where we land. The 2024 Trustees Report is a public document. You can read it yourself. It says the Retirement Trust Fund runs out of reserves in 2033. The Congressional Budget Office independently projects 2033 for the combined funds. When that happens, current law requires benefits to drop to match incoming revenue. That is roughly 77 cents on the dollar. Nobody knows exactly how it would be administered because it has never happened. But the most commonly assumed scenario is a uniform across-the-board percentage cut applied to every beneficiary at the same time. Congress might act before then. History says they probably will. But history also says they'll wait until it's nearly too late, and the fix will include costs that fall on people who assumed they were protected. If you're under 55, you have time. Not unlimited time, but time. Every year you maximize your savings, every year you build tax diversification, every year you understand your actual projected benefit and plan around 77% of it instead of 100, you are buying yourself margin. And margin is what separates a difficult adjustment from a crisis. If someone you know is already retired and Social Security is 50% or more of their income, and for about 40% of retirees over 65, it is. This conversation matters even more. They need to know the number, not the fear, the number. Comment below. With this, pull up your Social Security statement, apply the 23% reduction, and tell me, does your plan still work? That single question is worth more than anything I've said in the last 20 minutes. You're not behind because you didn't know this. The information is technically public, but it's buried in a 200-page actuarial report written for policy specialists, not for the person lying in bed at midnight doing math on their phone. Now you have the number, you have the date, you have the mechanism. What you do with it is yours to decide. But I'll tell you this. The worst version of 2033 is the one where it surprises you. The trust fund doesn't care whether you believe in it. It doesn't care whether Congress acts. It runs out on the same schedule whether you plan or whether you don't. The only variable you control is what your life looks like on the other side. Your SSA.gov account is free. Your statement is there right now. Take the number. Multiply by 0.77. And if the answer makes your chest tight, that's not a reason to look away. That's the reason to call an advisor this week, not in 2032. Subscribe if you want the math done honestly. I won't sell you anything.